talked about distributed property, and we watched a really silly video about a king and his gold bars and his diamonds. And so what we learned is, if we're looking at something like this first one, it's saying that 8 people each brought 4 items. And so you have to take 8 times 4 to figure out how many total items they brought, which 8 times 4 would be 32x. And that's what that means. You have 32 x's. 8 people brings 4, that's a total of 32. Okay, then you keep the sign, so we're going to keep the subtraction, and then we're also going to say 8 times 5, and that represented his diamonds, so 8 times 5 is 45. And then the king could not add those together because he could not say, I got 15 gold bars and 3 diamonds, and say that that is, I got 40, sorry. 40, could not say that he had 18 gold bars, because he didn't. He had 15 and he had 3. So that's why you cannot combine those two together. Okay? Alright, then we got a little bit harder, and we dealt with more positive and negative. That's where you guys are really struggling with, is more on your signs than anything else. So I'm going to take negative 4 times 9. Negative 4 times 9 is negative 36x. I'm going to keep the subtraction sign, and then I'm going to take negative 4 times 12, which is negative 48. And then I said you can't keep a subtract and negative. So what have I taught you about that? Yeah, smiley. I called it smiley face trick yesterday because that seems to really help people remember it. So I was like, oh, there you go. Which means that you need to take out the plus and just put in plus 48. Now, if you are fancy and you are doing that mentally, that's okay. But probably 80% of you are not there yet, so you need to be doing that method until you're really good at it. Yes?
So,
when you get subtract and negative, that's when the smiley face happens. Yes, ma'am. Okay, then on the last one, so I threw in a fraction problem. You should be able to do a third of 12 mentally. And I say that because what this means in life is that you have 12 things. And there's you and 2 friends. There's 3 of you. How much does each friend get? 4, because that is a third of 12. So that would be 4t. They gave you easy numbers on purpose. They didn't give you hard fractions, okay? If you have to go old school, you can do this, but you should be able to mentally do that, okay? So this times this, then we use the subtraction. This is the same thing again. When I say what is a third of 15, you should say, I have 15 things. We have 3 friends. How much does everyone get? 5. And that's it, and you're done. Okay, this will show up a ton. You're going to see this over and over and over again. I teach that Algebra 1, and it is in there all over the place. So that's a skill that's not going away. Yes? You have what? No, that would be too close. No, and actually that's a really good thing, because when you convert things to decimals and they don't terminate, you are not going to get the same answer. That's the right answer. That's the only right answer. Now, 3.96 is close, but it's not 4 because you rounded your decimal. So that's the perfect explanation why math teachers do not like you to convert fractions to decimals. Does that make sense? Okay, yeah, that's a great example. Okay, Layla?
how did you get did you just count the 12 divided by the 3 to get the 14?
That's what I just explained. I just said if I had 12 friends and I wanted a third, how much would each friend get? That's why I was trying to give you that. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so let's go into the learning goal today is exactly the same learning goal as yesterday. We are still expanding. I knew that there was no way you could process that much information in one day. So that's why we did it yesterday. We practiced, and then we're going to do a little more today. Today I'm going to focus on a couple of tricky problems that I think you might have trouble with. I'm also going to focus on word problems so that you understand where the numbers are coming from. So that's kind of our goal for today. All right, so this first slide, whole bunch of algebra stuff. Believe it or not, since I've been teaching since the beginning of time, this is stuff I used to only show my 9th graders when I taught 9th grade. So this has come all the way down to 7th grade. So it is kind of tricky for you guys. And this one basically wants to know which of these expressions can be expanded. So can you look at these 5 expressions and tell me which one you know cannot be expanded? There's a really obvious one on here. Brandon? The first one? Okay, now this one, I'm not sure what Digits is getting at, because you can multiply these, but I'm thinking they're saying you can't expand them. This could be multiplied, you could do 6xy, but I think they're getting at that it's not expansion, so I think you're right. Okay, there's another one up here that's a pretty easy one to see. Nick?
7.
The one with the 7s, so 7n plus 7n. Yeah, there's nothing to be expanded there. That's like the answer, right? So this one cannot be expanded. Everything else up there can be expanded. Okay, so let's go through each of these. Let's start with the one I think is probably the easiest, which is this one. So let's come over here and write this down, and then let's expand it. And if some of you are getting confused and say, oh my gosh, why does it have 3 things inside of there? Like you're going into a small panic. This would be like yesterday's video that let's say that the king got really greedy and he said, you have to bring me gold bars, you have to bring me diamonds, and now you also have to bring me rubies. Okay? And then he could add another thing and say, and now you have to also bring me monkeys. Okay? And then now you also have to bring me, I know Brandon, everyone loves a monkey. And now you also have to bring me a, I don't know, what else?
Chimpanzee.
Yeah, chimpanzee, okay? He could go on forever. So you could literally have, he's like Michael Jackson, he likes all this weird stuff. Okay, so you could literally have it spread out forever and keep expanding, okay? All right, so let's expand this one. So this one's really pretty easy. What's negative 4 times x?
Negative 4x.
Negative 4x. Gunnar, if you look up here, it makes it much easier to understand. Okay, now we're going to take negative 4 times 10.
Negative 40.
Negative 40, and we're going to keep the plus sign, right? So plus negative 40y. We're going to keep the subtraction sign, right? So I keep that. What is negative 4 times 9? Negative 36. Okay? Because it's subtract, and then it's a negative. It's a negative 4 times a positive 9. Okay, now what I need to do to that? We can't solve it. There's one thing I need to do to that. What? Yeah, remember, smiley face trick? Right? Right here. I can't have subtract a negative, so I'm going to change that into plus a positive. So this is just going to be plus 36. And then that's all I can do, right? If the king wanted gold bars, and he wanted diamonds, and he wanted rubies, I can't add those 3 together because those are 3 separate things. All right, let's try the one I think is the next easiest, Simon, and that would be this one. All right, so let's bring this one over here. So 3x, parentheses 2 plus y. All right, so I'm going to start off by taking 3x times 2. What would that be? 6x, very good. So 6x. I'm going to keep my plus sign, so plus 3x times y. 3xy. Emmy's right. 3xy. You got to keep the 3x and you tack on the y. Doesn't this mean 3 times x times y? That's all you just did. You had a 3 times x times y. You just smash them all together. And again, I can't put those 2 together because they're different things. Okay? All right, let's try the one I think is hardest. That's because that's a fraction, but you're multiplying by a half. What are you doing in life when you multiply by 1/2? What are you really doing? No, what? Cutting it in half. That's all you're doing. When you multiply by a third, what are you really doing? Cutting a third. You multiply by a fourth, what are you really doing? Cutting into fourths. That's it. Fractions that have a 1 in them are super easy. They're easy. Don't let them freak you out. Okay, so what is 1/2 of 6? 3. So this is 3a. Keep your subtraction sign. What's 1/2 of 10? 5. So 5b. See, fractions aren't scary. They're really not that bad if you just think about what you're doing. I always say fractions are your friends. Are you guys too old for Nemo? Nemo's been out a really long time. Okay. I'm saying that's been out for a long time, so I didn't know if you guys have seen that one. All right. Next one. This is a huge thing that kids always get super mega confused about. Okay, is the way that these look. because kids will always come to me and say, does that mean subtract y, or does that mean multiply by y? And you have to know the difference. Okay, so look at these two expressions. Can you tell me which one of these expressions is subtract y and the reason that it's subtract y? Kale. Okay, good. So this one right here, okay, is multiplication because there's no symbol. Remember, when there's no symbol, that means multiplication. Anytime something's touching something. So if they write it like the first way, this means multiplication. Okay, so this is your multiplication. All right. This right here would mean subtraction. That's very important. I always have kids come to me. They're on test day. Thank you for writing this, those of you who are writing it like you're supposed to. They always come to me on test day and they're like, well, I don't know which it is. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. That's part of something I'm testing you over. So you have to know the difference. Okay? All right, now let's go ahead and expand the first one. The second one, there's nothing I can do to it. There's nothing. There's nothing at all. But the first one I can expand. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in, because I think it's helpful, we're going to add in a -1. I can add a 1 in front of any number that I want. All right, so we're going to go ahead and expand. Does it make sense? Are you guys okay with adding the 1, or do I need to explain more? Explain more. Okay, so think about the gold bars, right? Okay, he had 15 gold bars. That makes sense? Okay, what if I just put a G? How many gold bars would he have there? How many? 1. Because there's just 1 G. Does that make sense? Okay, do you remember when he did the diamonds and all he put was just 1 single D? He said 5G plus D, and that meant 1 diamond. So if you put a 1 in front of it, isn't that 1 diamond? Okay, so if there's a negative here, now does it make sense if I put -1? Yeah. You don't have to, but I think it helps you understand when you go to multiply. That's why I think it's helpful. Okay, so we're basically taking -1 times 5. What's -1 times 5? -5y's. Good. You're going to keep the subtraction like that, okay? And then take -1y times x. -1xy. You typically put them in alphabetical order, so that's called standard form. We haven't quite got there yet, but that's what it's called. Okay, what if I taught you when to subtract a negative? Plus, plus, right? Smiley face. Smiley face. Okay. Do I need the 1 there? No. Do I need double plus signs there? No. No. So my final answer that I would have to put in digits or it would count it wrong is this. That's it in simplified form. Take out the 1, take out the double pluses. Yes. It is. I want you to get used to it though, so that way when I start talking about it later, you're like, oh cool, she's already taught that. I don't have to learn something else. But mathematically, it's the same if you do it either way. All right, so let's see if you understand what all this means. Okay, so let's put it into some real life situations. Okay, so if you pay attention to what I'm saying, this will not be hard. So I'll walk you through it. Okay, so an architect draws plans for extending a rectangular deck. So imagine you have a deck on the back of your house. Your parents want it to be bigger. Okay, so you make it bigger. This right here is the current deck that you have at your house. Okay, but your parents want to add all of this onto it. That's the new part. Okay, so let's look at the dimensions. So currently, your deck is 3.7 meters this way, and it's 4.5 meters this way. Okay, so if I was trying to find the area, let me do one with easy numbers. What is the area of that rectangle? Nick? Is 12. What did you do? Yeah, 2 times 6 is 12. That's how you find area. So how would I find the area of this, your current deck, Sophia? Yes, does that make sense? Just based on what, okay. So now let's look at this. What does 4.5 plus x mean? What does 4.5 plus x mean? Look at your picture. What